Hi, this is Steve with Thresher Media Group. Welcome to When You're Ready to Listen. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the truth about God, things you may not have understood, may not have been taught, or quite frankly, had a very hard time believing. And since our entire relationship with God rests on believing, it is important we learn how to separate the truth from the many lies and fictions that abound within the religion of Christianity. So when you're ready to listen, tune in and discover a pathway to freedom, encouragement, life, and hope. Before we get started, I'd like to encourage you to go to Amazon and pick up a copy of Liberating the Book of Revelation, Returning to the Source of the Message. This book is intended to help us all know what the Spirit said and how He said it. This book is focused not on interpreting the book of Revelation, that is what this podcast is for, but on accurately representing the book of Revelation in the manner in which the Spirit originally spoke it to John. It is available in all formats, hardback, paperback, ebook format, and as an audible. In our last podcast, we discussed the role of the professionals, the passengers, and those who make their living on the sea in the economy of the harlot. It was a hard look at the pastors, teachers, ministry leaders, etc., and their part in serving the harlot. They too will weep and lament the destruction of the harlot. Episode 155, Revelation 18, verses 18 through 20, Part 2. The professionals and passengers, they will weep and lament. They are now seeing the smoke of her burning, now saying, "What is like unto the city that great?" And they threw dust on their heads and cried, now weeping, and now mourning, now saying, "Woe, woe, the city that great! The city that great, in which all who are now having ships at sea became rich by her wealth. For in 1 hour she has been caused to be laid waste." As with the kings of the earth and the merchants of the earth, so too the professionals and the passengers lament with weeping and mourning over their losses, knowing that in 1 hour she has been caused to be laid to waste. Everyone is so upset about their losses, about the destruction of the riches which the harlot provides by her strenuousness or by her wealth. As before, there are two woes, one for their losses in the spiritual realms and one for their losses in the physical realms. But unlike the kings of the earth and the merchants of the earth, the professionals and the passengers throw dust on their heads. This is a gut-wrenching experience for them, as this is their life. The kings of the earth have their responsibilities over the territories of mankind, and their playing in religion was just a bonus that they enjoyed and embraced. So too, the merchants of the earth have other wares to hawk, and they are the ultimate wholesalers. They will always find another product, so to speak. But for the professionals and the passengers, this world of religion is their life. It is all they know, and it is what they love. The harlot has cared for them and provided a way for them to be important, to have purpose, to have identity. And she provided them so many opportunities to serve God and to share in her wealth. And so, in great mourning, they threw dust on their heads. The three lamentations. Let's compare the various lamentations. The kings of the earth are now saying, "Woe, woe, the city that great Babylon, the city that mighty, the city that great Babylon, the city that mighty." The merchants of the earth are now saying, "Woe, woe, the city that great one." The professionals and the passengers are now saying, "Woe, woe, the city that great, the city that great." Each of these lamentations are similar, but each subsequent phrasing leaves off some indicator that the Spirit felt was necessary to convey to us. It's as if He is telling us that the kings of the earth know 100% who and what they are dealing with. Babylon, the great city of religious apostasy that has permeated every aspect of humanity. The harlot is so mighty that she is the one responsible for so much that has been done in Jesus' name. Whereas the merchants of the earth know that she is the one and there is no other. She controlled the market on religion, and their opportunities to preside over humanity were all created by her. She is the city, that great one, and there's nowhere else to go to merchandise their religious wares. They never thought she could fall, much less fall so dramatically. As a result, they will be forced to merchandise in new markets. The professionals and the passengers' phrasing stops just a bit short of totally glorifying her as did the others. They know that she is the city, that great. But the delusion of those who have been drinking the harlot's wine and who are held captive by the unclean spirits, birds, and beasts fail to recognize who it is that they have been serving, who it is that has been providing for them. Thus, their phrasing is cut short, indicating the depth of their delusion that comes with drinking her wine of immorality. The three, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. There is also the third time they acknowledge that there is a designated time for her demise, that 1 hour. According to the code, the number 3 is an indicator of perfection, God's perfection. And the use of this phrase 3 times makes it clear that this is the perfect work of Yahweh. And Yahweh alone, even though he will use agents, the 10 horns and the beast, to accomplish the demise of the harlot. 3, the mark of perfection is Yahweh's calling card, so to speak. In the same way that the 3 groups each had a different lament, so too do they address this 1 hour in their own unique way, each style indicating something about the group. The kings of the earth say, "For in 1 hour your judgment has come." The merchants of the earth say, "For in 1 hour such great wealth has been caused to be laid waste." The professionals and the passengers say, "For in 1 hour she has been caused to be laid waste." As typical politicians, the kings of the earth are pragmatic and declare the fact of the event. However, they are fixated on her judgment, which involves death, mourning, and famine. They want nothing to do with that judgment, and they do not want it to spill over onto them, even though they intimately embrace the harlot. So they back away from the harlot, leaving her to face her 1 hour of judgment alone. For the merchants of the earth, it's all about the economics of the event. It's all about the loss of riches which were made by the great wealth of the harlot. It's as if they are saying, "What a waste, that in 1 hour it has all been caused to be laid waste." But for the professionals and the passengers, it's far more personal. She has been caused to be laid to waste. The woman, apostate religion, is their focus, the source of their lament. They love this woman. They love what she has done for them. They love her system in which they have thrived. Every nation was drunk with her wine, and this gave them great purpose, identity, and belonging, all of which is found in her. And in 1 hour, she has been caused to be laid to waste. The professionals, a reprise. Before we move on, we would be remiss to not address some of the potent things which Jesus had to say to the professionals of his day, those who wielded the power and control over the people, using religion as their instrument of authority. To them, Jesus gave the sternest rebuke and warning. As we go through this passage, the words rabbi, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites are interchangeable with the equivalent Christian nomenclature: pastor, teacher, elder, deacon, professor, leader, and so on. Keep in mind, the professionals are spiritual entities, demonic spirits who work through human avatars who occupy the roles of pastor, teacher, elder, deacon, professor, leader, and so on within our churches and ministry outlets. Sadly, little has changed from the time of Jesus until today. Matthew 23, 6 through 36. They now love the place of honor at banquets and the chief seats in the synagogues and respectful greetings in the marketplaces, and now caused of being called rabbi by men. But do not be caused to be called rabbi, for one now is your teacher, and you now are all brothers. May you not call anyone on earth your father, for one now is your Father, he who is in heaven. May you not be caused to be called leaders, for one now is your leader, that is Christ. But the greatest among you shall in the future choose to be your servant. Whoever in the future exalts himself will in the future be caused to be humbled. And whoever in the future humbles himself will in the future be caused to be exalted. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Because you now shut off the kingdom of heaven from people, so you do not enter in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are now entering in to choose to now go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you now devour widows' houses, and for a pretense you choose to make and are caused to make long prayers. Therefore you will choose in the future to receive greater condemnation. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you now travel around on sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he may choose to become one, you now make him twice as much a son of hell as yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides who are now saying, whoever may swear by the temple that now is nothing, but whoever may swear by the gold of the temple is now obligated. Fools and you blind ones, which now is more important, the gold or the temple that was sanctifying the gold? And whoever may swear by the altar that is now nothing, but whoever may swear by the offering on it, he is now obligated. You blind men, which is more important, the offering or the altar that is now sanctifying the offering? Therefore, whoever has been swearing by the altar now swears both by the altar and by everything on it. And whoever has been swearing by the temple now swears both by the temple and by him who is now dwelling within it. And whoever has been swearing by heaven now swears both by the throne of God and by him who chooses to now be sitting upon it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you now tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier provisions of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. But these are things you should have done without now neglecting the others. Blind guides who strain out a gnat and are now swallowing a camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you now clean the outside of the cup and of the dish, but inside they are now full of robbery and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee! First you are commanded to clean the inside of the cup and of the dish, so that the outside of it may choose to become clean also. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are now like tombs caused to being whitewashed, which on the outside appear beautiful, but inside they are now full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. So you too outwardly are caused to now appear righteous to men, but inwardly are now full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you now build the tombs of the prophets, and now adorn the monuments of the righteous, and now say, if I chose to have lived in the days of our fathers, I would not have chosen to have been partners with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. So you now testify against yourself that you now are sons of those who have been murdering the prophets. You are commanded to fill up then the measure of the guilt of your fathers. You serpents, you brood of vipers. How may you escape the sentence of hell? Therefore, behold, I now send you prophets and wise men and scribes. Some of them you will in the future kill and in the future crucify, and some of them you will in the future scourge in your synagogues, and in the future persecute from city to city, so that upon you may fall the guilt of all the righteous blood, now caused to be pouring on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Truly I now say to you, all these things will in the future come upon this generation. In case you did not make the connection to the animal imagery, by calling the religious leaders vipers, Jesus identified these professionals with the demonic. As shocking as it may be, this should not surprise us, since the harlots, unclean spirits, birds, and beasts keep these religious leaders under their control. Judgment will come to this religious generation that trades on the seas of humanity while binding people in chains of legalism and idolatry, instead of freeing them to live like little children, wholly dependent upon Yahweh for all things all the time, such as his righteousness and not their own. Judgment will come to those who say grace, grace, but then tells everyone what they must be doing to be right with God or to be a good Christian. Yes, judgment will come. Rejoice over her. Revelation 18, verse 20. You are commanded to now be caused to rejoice over her, O heaven, and the holy ones, and the holy ones, and the apostles, and the prophets, because God has pronounced judgment for you against her. As stated previously, when we addressed the sixth command, this judgment is personal in that it is against the great harlot, but it is also for the people of God, the holy ones, the apostles and the prophets. Yet even more specifically, it is for the holy ones, the apostles and the prophets, those to whom God says, mine. This judgment is a recompense, a reckoning, a vengeance. God is settling the score on behalf of his people at large, but specifically for the holy ones, the apostles, and the prophets. By the way, the inclusion of the personal pronoun the in each instance is extremely intentional. This is a reckoning. This is about God setting things straight, and he is doing it for all his bondservants. This harlot has been tried and found guilty, and her judgment has been fixed. Others lament her destruction, but those in heaven, the saints, the apostles, and prophets, are now commanded to let God cause them to rejoice and celebrate, rendered in the passive voice. Rejoicing over her demise is a work of the Spirit of God in our lives. It's an expression of how he feels. In this light, we are to adopt God's perspective of those who trade and deal in the business of religion, and those who look to the business of religion for their livelihood, and let his Spirit cause us to rejoice even now, for God has pronounced judgment for his bondservants, the holy ones, the apostles, and the prophets, against her. Come out of her, my people. Those who have ears to hear what the Spirit is even now saying will let God cause them to rejoice and celebrate the destruction of this woman's religious system that has infected practically everyone, for all the nations have become drunk with the wine of her immorality. In this 1 hour of judgment, the kings of the earth, the merchants and the professionals and the passengers will be left bereft, and this woman they loved will be exposed for all her demonic seductions and delusion. A new reality. This is mind-blowing. Within the realm of Christianity, we have been trained and conditioned by those who make their living in the realm of religion, the professionals, to honor the church, to honor them as leaders, notwithstanding whether they are ruled, infected, and manipulated by this harlot and her cohort of demons. They tell us that church is the bride of Christ and we must not speak bad about her, for God loves her. Is it? Does he? God simply does not see things in that way. He does not elevate any institution the way man does, nor does he elevate any man. What matters to him is merely faith expressing itself in God's agape love. And if that is not what is experienced within a religious community, organization, or through our religious leaders, then it and they have already been given to this harlot and to her sensuality and licentiousness. Our new reality is to no longer see through the lens of religion, manipulated by those whose livelihood depends upon it, but through the desires of the Spirit, who wants to cause us to now rejoice over the destruction of this woman and the destruction of all her institutions and all its dependents. However, the fact that the Spirit must cause us to rejoice tells us that it's not a choice we can easily make on our own. Sadly, we have been too influenced by the religion, and we've been manipulated by the religious factions that have been propagated by the professionals. And as a result, we are afraid of making waves and sounding so unloving, judgmental, and unkind. So, he must do it for us. He must cause us to rejoice. Left to ourselves, we would likely lament her demise, just like the kings, the merchants, and the professionals. After all, far too many of us still have this woman living quite comfortably within our hearts. However, if we are willing to let Yahweh have his war to destroy anything in our being that does not look to him to be our I am, she will be a prime target of his fight, and he will uproot her from all the places that she now possesses and destroy her hold on our lives. And we will come to know that if the Son sets us free, we will be free indeed. Then he will lead us to rejoice over the fact that he will render and is rendering judgment on our behalf. And he will vindicate us by decimating this woman who has secretly been our blood enemy all the while convincing us that she is our lover. Rejoice with him, O heavens. Bow down to him, all gods, for he avenges the blood of his children and takes vengeance on his adversaries. He repays those who hate him and cleanses his people's land. Why are we to rejoice over destruction, you might ask? And in her was caused to be found the blood of prophets and of holy ones and of all who have been caused to being slain on the earth. As Jeremiah prophesied, Babylon must fall for the slain of Israel. Also, for Babylon have fallen the slain of all the earth. This woman persecuted, harmed, and killed true believers all throughout her life. Those who truly have faith, those who have bet their lives on the things which God has said are, have been, and will continue to be her sworn enemies. She wants back those who have found their freedom, and her pursuit is relentless. Without remorse, the harlot has taken the blood of true believers, while at the same time convincing her followers who commit these atrocious deeds that they are truly serving God. Notice, however, that she is held responsible not for just the blood of the prophets and the saints, but for all who have been slain or literally butchered on the earth. Not so sure we can make sense of it all, but this is telling us that this woman is somehow behind all the acts of wanton brutality on this earth, which have led to death. That seems to be what was indicated where it says that, for Babylon have fallen the slain of all the earth. Perhaps this passage is telling us that she has so twisted religion and people's view of God that at the core of a person's bloodletting is the control which this woman and her demonic helpmates wield in their lives. Perhaps she incites a rebellion and hatred of God that results in a person giving in to their outbursts of anger and violence. Perhaps she convinces people that there is no God, so they can do as they please without consequences. Still others, she convinces that they are some sort of Messiah, which justifies in their minds their heinous actions. Perhaps she instills hatred towards anyone who holds to different beliefs. Perhaps she and those demons are the voices which push one to act out in wanton and gratuitous violence and self-harm. The harlot does more harm than we could ever imagine. When it comes down to it, this woman has infected everyone. All the nations are drunk with her wine. Therefore, she is held accountable for the blood of all those who have been butchered or slain. As Jesus said, so that upon you may fall the guilt of all the righteous blood now caused to be pouring on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. This judgment of the harlot is the fulfillment of Jesus' words on the necks of this apostate generation, a generation that has used religion as their covering to justify their lust for power, control, influence, wealth, prosperity, sensuality, and licentiousness, will fall pursuant to Yahweh's unrelenting judgment of death, mourning, and famine. We must never forget that this desire for power, control, influence, wealth, prosperity, sensuality, and licentiousness is the very fabric of the number 666, the number that is integrated into all aspects of religion. Everything is tied together. Satan, the beast, the false prophet, the woman who rides the 7 heads of the beast, the demonic spirits who support her activities, and all the followers who choose to abide and function in apostate religion. Her riches are the threads that bind them all together. To rejoice over such destruction does not seem very Christian, especially when this is dealing with Christian institutions and professionals in the Christian marketplace. But we are commanded to let the Spirit cause us to rejoice in this woman's destruction. This means we are to rejoice even when we see the institutions we love and have served, which have drunk her abominable drink, come to their demise. After all, Jesus came to bring a sword and to divide. Matthew 10:34-39. May you not think that I came to bring peace on this earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I came to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be the members of his household. He who is now loving father or mother more than me is now not worthy of me. And he who is now loving son or daughter more than me is now not worthy of me. And he who does not now take his cross and now follow after me is now not worthy of me. He who has been finding his life will in the future lose it. And he who has been losing his life for my sake will in the future find it. Let's stop here. In our next podcast, pick back up with a description of the harlot's destruction and the reasons for her destruction. I'm glad you tuned in and have been ready to listen. To get a free download of the full written transcript with all the scripture references footnoted, please go to threshermediagroup.com. That is THRESHER mediagroup.com. This is Steve with Thresher Media Group. When you're ready to listen, tune in.